Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It's our instant reaction post-match to Leeds United 1, West Brom 1 on a day where, well, did Leeds disappoint? I don't know about that. It's been an incredible run for the Whites, and it's kind of not ground to a halt. Obviously, it's always a little bit like, oh, did we not win today? We've got so used to it. I was expecting a goal at the end. I'm not going to lie, but overall, Southampton, Sunderland, West Brom, 7 points out of the 9 there. Fantastic.
Southampton? That'd be impressive.
Sunderland, Sheffield United. Yeah, if only we'd done that last year. But yeah, it's one of those. We have dropped points, but such is the position Leeds are in. We've still got a huge advantage in first place. We're going to break down the team sheet. We're going to break down the match. We're going to look at it all. Get your comments in. Get your likes on the channel. Subscribe as well. I'm Stephen Brown. Joining me as ever is Jason Booker. Well, Jason, it got off to kind of a typical start for what we've been expecting from Leeds, what we've seen for the last what feels like a few months. An early goal, and you're thinking, here we are, we're at it again. Good opening, looked right at it. I think you just have to hold your hands up and say, credit to West Brom, who upped the intensity, upped the physicality, started winning those second balls. And to be honest, I thought they deserved an equaliser that first half, the way they performed. We're going to break down why we think that might have occurred, but sometimes I think you have to hold your hands up, like we've said many times on this show, and say, look, the opposition have come to do damage. And, West Brom probably, on paper, the last best team we would face on this run to the end of the season. Certainly no kind of clickbaity meltdowns or anything today. It's absolutely not. Last 20 minutes we tried to force it, and if it had gone differently, we may have been able to snatch a winner there. Only 2 shots on target from Leeds today, which probably tells its own story. Jason, I mean, what did you make of it? I mean, it's that kind of lunchtime kickoff vibe, isn't it? 12:30 kickoff, and obviously it started so well. I mean, it's hard to be critical, really. I mean, we've been on an unbelievable run, and we were always going to drop points at some point, weren't we? Again, yeah. What's your kind of overall feeling now, a few minutes after full time?
I'm all right with it, mate. I mean, this is going to sound really arrogant, but the only disappointment I feel today is it kind of means that we're probably not going to get the points total. That's my initial gut reaction. I'm a bit disappointed because it only gives us a couple of points to play with to genuinely have a go at getting the points total. And I'm not that bothered about it, but it'd be nice to have it. You know what I mean? This team's broken so many records, but I just deal with it with the perspective that it deserves. We've not lost a game in 17 games in the league. We've not lost since the 30th of November was the last time that we lost. We've drawn twice at home all season, once on New Year's Day, once on the opening day of the season, and then again today. We're so used to seeing wins, and obviously we've had 1 defeat against Burnley. West Brom are a good side. They found ways to kind of dictate playing in the right moments. They defended extremely well. I thought after we'd scored early, we would probably take over and kind of go on the way that we always, we have done as of late. But, I don't think we were right at it today either. I think there were too many passengers within the side. Midfield in particular, I thought Tanaka was fine, but I thought Joe Rothwell had a pretty poor game by the standards that he's kind of set, a bit sloppy with the ball, and his distribution weren't as great, and he weren't driving into them half spaces. But some of that were down to the West Brom midfield. They've got 2 really seasoned players in there in Malumbi and Moa, who both know how to win games, win the battles, win the duels in the Championship. They're both very, very good midfielders at this level. Swift as well in front of them. They're a bit of an handful. Adam Armstrong, a handful of a striker at this level. I mean, I loved that moment that when Meslier came out and rushed out to him. He's one of only a few strikers in the division is Adam Armstrong that would back into that space like that and catch the ball coming into his path in that way. So, I think on the face of it, mate, it's a perfectly fine point, given the fact that we've taken 6 from 6 in the previous 2 against Sheffield United and Sunderland, and what that meant to us. We'd have all snapped that the hands, that your hand off if you'd have offered us 7 points from them games and told that you were going to get 6 from 6 against Sheffield United and Sunderland. So I think it's perfectly respectable. I definitely think there's stuff to break down within the game that I weren't happy with. But I think overall, we still hit the bar twice in the second half as well. We weren't a million miles away from scoring another goal. In the second half, it were all Leeds really outside of maybe 5 minutes, where they had a couple of moments. But yeah, overall, all right, mate.
It's kind of a funny position as well, because I was thinking this first half when we took the lead and we it's kind of mentally, I wonder what it does to you when you've got such a huge lead in the league table, you're winning the game, and it's almost you're so used to, especially this Leeds team, the most sprints in the league, the pressing, the intensity, and it's almost that thing of, well, we can kind of take our foot off the gas because you don't want to kill yourselves when you've already got that advantage, but at the same time, if that intensity level just drops off a bit, it starts to cause you a problem. And there were a couple of alarming moments when we were second to those balls. And I think with Rothwell as well, I do agree. I thought, it's one of it's certainly his lesser performances for Leeds. And I was just wondering, because he's kind of, him and Gruev have been in and out, they've been kind of swapping. So I don't know, maybe he's potentially lost a bit of rhythm, possibly. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, it didn't quite happen to him. I mean, do you think there's anything in that fact of, when you kind of, at the front and leading? And to be honest, it's only this kind of period we've had that with Farke. I mean, last season we spent the entire season chasing. I mean, as a player, if you've got that, you're winning the match, you're miles in front in the league, not necessarily complacency, but do you tone down that intensity level, or does something just drop off a little bit?
I mean, it's a really, really interesting point, because I mean, these are top level athletes right at the top of their game. You would love to believe that they don't, but they are only human. Yeah. And that definitely could be a problem. I think there's a real small margin between having the confidence and relaxing nature around not having that pressure, which then can allow you to express yourself and dominate games even more, and then falling into the complacency level where it's too easy. I mean, after 6 minutes when we scored, I'm like, right, okay, here we go again. I'm all right to do that because I'm a fan. But the players can't do that. And you're right. Like, I've made this point before, that there's a huge gaping chasm almost between being at 100% and being at 95% at the top level of any sport. So when you drop 5%, that's enough then for the teams to catch up that are not as good as you in terms of the technical ability of the players. If they're giving 100%, that 5% will make the difference and you'll lose a game. Yeah. So, West Brom are fighting for a lot. They've got it all to play for. I mean, that battle for the playoff positions in the Championship is absolutely massive. So for them leaving Ellen Road with a point, they will be absolutely buzzing, and they'll know that they'll need every point available to them. So, they have a lot to play for. So I genuinely don't think it's a bad point on the face of it. I don't think anybody will say it's a bad performance, on the face of it. Quickly had a quick flick through socials, as they always do before coming online, and people are like, shit performance, shit. And I'm like, come on, have a day off. Like, let's not do this. You know what I mean? Like, again, I think people are very, very guilty at Championship level of just thinking that Leeds should just step up, roll the team over, and we move on to the next one. Like, there's two teams playing these games, and we probably will drop more points before now and the end of the season. They're not lost in 17 games, Brownie. Like, they're allowed to drop a point against 5th place West Brom. You know what I mean? So, and they're allowed to have a bit of an off day in terms of the free-flowing football. I still think there were loads to like. I thought up until West Brom scoring, I thought Joe Perreault was brilliant. And he'd not had a clear chance on goal, but his link-up play was superb. He was picking up pockets of space and springing it over to different wings. And I thought Tanaka overall was pretty good in that first 20-25 minutes. Jayden Bogle, Dan James, down that right-hand side were causing all sorts of trouble. So
I don't know if you thought this. I thought we were guilty at times of not punching that pass through. There were just a couple of moments. I think even Tanaka was guilty of this a couple of times, where had the opportunity to put a ball through, held on to it, opportunity's gone. They ended up playing it too late and the player's offside, or the opportunity's gone. I just felt occasionally a hesitancy just crept into punching that ball through and that quick kind of sharp round the corner. And I don't know why. And like you say, look, everyone's, can have a slightly off day or whatever, but I just thought that kind of crept into it. one thing as well, Ethan Ampadu, obviously, you know, captain of the club, he's going to be out for a while. We don't even know if we're going to see him again this season. You know, it sounds very kind of touch and go. Obviously, him coming back into the team, I think, has coincided with this great run and the consistency. Did we miss someone like him today? I mean, is that something to factor in where you go, would he have kind of maybe helped to keep those levels up, those concentration levels and those kind of that tenacity, intensity? And is that potentially, you know, not a problem going forward, but it kind of changes that dynamic that we've had for the last kind of couple of months before that Sheffield United game?
Yeah, I think any team at championship level is going to miss Ethan Ampadu. You know, he's a brilliant player. I would say he's our second best midfielder because I think Tanaka's just that good. I really do. And that's no disrespect to Ampadu. I think it's brilliant, but Tanaka's just sensational. Tanaka can do everything that Ampadu can do. Ampadu can't do everything that Tanaka can do.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? And I think that's the difference between them. And I would say Ampadu's our second best centre-back behind Joe Rodon. Which, again, makes me sound like I'm slagging him off, but he's a brilliant leader. You know, he offers so much quality in terms of what he does bring to the side. And I mean, I think for me, any you know, Leeds United side that's starting without Ampadu in it isn't as good as what it could be, because he is definitely one of the first 11 on the team sheet. I think we miss him massively at centre back. I do. You know, I don't think there's any, you know, surprise that in the last two games we've conceded more chances than we have done previously without him. You know, with him, sorry. You know what I mean? Without him, we've conceded more chances over these two games than we had done without him.
Yeah.
I know we conceded the goal against Sunderland and all the rest of it, but that was one moment against probably the best out-and-out 9 in the league. You know, like, you can forsake them moments for you know, everything else that he then brings over the whole game. You know, we didn't concede much against Sunderland at all, really, did we? No. So it was just that one or two moments, but that one moment in particular. So, yeah, I hate to keep on banging on about it because I would never want people to think that I've got an agenda, because I don't. I don't jump on the gaslighting of Pascal like everybody else does. He's a perfectly solid all-round championship centre-back that's just not great. He's just not.
I agree, and I text you, and one thing I've noticed with Pascal as well, and I think this is a huge red flag for going in the Premier League, and why not a lot of these players, but a fair or few are just not going to be up to it in the Premier League, in my opinion. And Pascal's guilty of this. Is when the pressure starts to crank up, those mistakes start just coming. You know, his passing gets wayward, lack of concentration. I watched him a couple of times and I thought he's going to get caught passing the ball back to Melly, because he had no awareness of, like, Adam Armstrong or whoever tracking the run. And I just thought he's going to get caught out. He's begging to get caught out here. And I agree with you. There's certain aspects of Pascal that I absolutely love, you know, like the late goals against Sunderland, that kind of physical presence. And it kind of looks aesthetically pleasing as a footballer when he's on the ball, that left foot and everything. But I have absolutely no doubt that our improvement defensively and everything is since Ampadu was in the team for him. You know, I absolutely believe that. I think you bang on. So, yeah, it's, you know, and that's going to be interesting, because it's going to be Strike and Rodon now for the end of the season. And I think in those pressure moments, you know, it's like Firpo at the end, you know, some bozo defending creeps in, and just those little things that just kind of, you just think, oh, come on, you know, it's stupidity, really, you know, and you just think, if this is Premier League, you're punished, aren't you? There's no coming back from that. I mean, and they were when they were in the Premier League.
Yeah. Pascal is extremely lucky that he's got Joe Rodon alongside him, who's got unbelievably a high level of recovery pace. His pace is just frighteningly quick for a centre-back. He eats up ground. And he's lucky that he has had Gruev in front of him, Ampadu in front of him, and Tanaka in front of him. They just make his life so much more simple. But his passing, his distribution with the ball is an absolute myth. He'll do the odd really, really good one, which people then just cancel out everything else for. His passing into the channels at times is so wayward. I mean, he did 2 or 3 today, completely under no pressure. And again, I'm not slagging him off. I just don't think it's a great part of his game. But because the stats say that he is, because he plays so many 5-yard passes to Joe Rodon, he gets labelled with this ball-playing centre-back label. Whereas actually, Joe Rodon's the player that actually sets our attacks going from centre back.
Yeah.
He's got a really good way now of pinging it out to Bogle, pinging it out to James, or he started now cutting it back inside into the area of the pitch where Pirro or Brendan take up, and he'll ping it in there. And that often will set us up further up the pitch. I find that Pascal's passes are usually either round the side of the attacker to the fullback, which usually doesn't get us anywhere other than it coming back to him, and then we go back down the other side, or it goes out of play. Like that's what I see. Like that, I think that's the reality of what actually happens, and I think that defensively, I think so. 90% of the time, Pascal's defending is fine. It's actually good. Like he's a good defender. Yeah. It's that 10% window when he switches off that's the problem. Like he can defend. He can defend very capably, but he just has too many moments where he switches off. All of the problems came down his side today. Defense on him, Firpo can't defend. So I get it. On that side, he's got double the job. Bogle can defend. So Rodon's got a bit of an easier time on that side. And that's why we look so much better when Gruev's in the side. Yeah. Because he covers that space. It doesn't allow Pascal to have to deal with it on his own. So
yeah, absolutely. Brendan Aronson, just want to kind of have a little chat about Brendan today. Against Sheffield United, I think in an attacking sense or on the ball sense, I mean, there was one really good pass Brendan did today on the edge of the box. He kind of split the defence a little bit. His attacking output here, we know what we get defensively. We know the press, and that's vital. That's been majorly important. Are we getting enough offensively from Brendan in your point of view at the moment? And I say at the moment because I think he's been very good. I think he's offered a lot offensively. But I thought today offensively, I don't know. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of a kind of imprint on the game, I guess. But I don't know. What did you make of him?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I've got to say, I thought defensively in the first half, he was brilliant. There were a period of play, 10, 15 minutes, where he must have won the ball back 4 times high up the pitch. And it was his defensive actions that did that. But I hear you, and I think you're fair to say that. Still worth remembering that he's our 3rd highest scorer this season. He's only behind Joel Perreault and Dan James for goals. He's scored 8 goals. I don't know his assist off the top of my head, but he has got a decent number of return. But I hear you. I think that there is definitely more he can do in them little pockets of space to create as more, openings and clear-cut chances. But again, then I hark back to the fact that West Brom in that area of the pitch really did shut us down. The success that we got today was very much down the wings, and it was limited at best at that anyway. West Brom are a good side. Kyle Bartley's a top centre-back. We know what Kyle Bartley's about. He's a hell of a player. He'd have been a Premier League player had he been probably a tad quicker and maybe a little bit less injury prone. And he has obviously played Premier League football. And then you look at Mowatt and Malumbi. Malumbi's not pretty on the eye, but he is very, very good at spoiling. Just nicking in, kicking you, giving away free kicks in the right positions. And obviously Mowatt, we know what Mowatt can do as well. So I think over the last 3 games we've played 3 of the better sides, or with the exception of us, 2 of the best sides in the division. He's going to get less moments of glory in terms of going forward. His role within this side is to be a facilitator for all of them other players to do their thing. Solomon, James, Pirro, they're the real cogs of creativity within this side. And Tanaka, and then Bogle and Firpo. I mean, how much more creativity do we need? You know what I mean? Like, if Brendan's not giving us that output, then you can't just blame it all on him because he's a quote-unquote 10. You know what I mean? Like, the other players are there to do that for us. Hence Firpo scoring. Hence Dan James with that beautiful assist. I mean, what a great goal. What a great goal that was. Great delivery by Dan James. And again, we could have scored more, couldn't we? I wouldn't say it's one of them days where we've missed gilt-edged chance after gilt-edged chance. We've seen that before. But I would say that we still probably could have scored another 2 today. So
yeah, absolutely. Skip, thanks for your comment, mate. Just got back from Ellen Road. That goal we conceded was horrendous defending. Tanaka lost Hegem and Bogle got bullied by Furlong. But promotion's still in our own hands. The meltdown online, as he said. I've not looked at the online. If it is a meltdown, I just don't know. I don't know what planet some people are on. It's
madness. I mean, even if we'd have lost at home to Luton, today, who were bottom of the league, right? We still shouldn't be having a meltdown, given the position that we've put ourselves in. But we didn't. We drew at home in a tight competitive game against one of the better sides in the division. It is madness. As for the goal, Skip is spot on. I mean, I feel a little bit sorry for Bogle, because Bogle was actually left with 3 players back there. If you go and watch it back again, he was left completely on his own, trying to defend both front and back, and then there was another player like off to the side. Like, it was a tough one, because does he go and defend what's in front of him? Does he go back and defend what's behind him? Like, it was a tricky one. It was terrible defending. But Browney's right. Like, we were kind of asking for it in that moment of the game. We just let them kind of get on top, and we weren't as dominating as what we had been previously, and what we know we could be. But look, set pieces have been a bit of an undoing, but it's not the end of the world.
No, indeed. Lee, how some fans are carrying on, you would think we were in 8th place and needed a win to scrap into the place. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I hope some of the other fan channels as well. I don't know what their reaction is to it, but obviously they have the influence to whip things up. Hopefully they're not going crazy on this either, because I think this is an absolutely fine point. The defending, I agree with you, Jason. I'm looking at Strike as well for that, not to kind of pick him out, but he's kind of doing a zonally marking thing, and he's kind of marking fresh air, and you think, mate, you're the tallest one, get on their best header and get on this, please. Just a mention of the substitutions as well, Jason. Obviously, Farke, his subs have been absolutely bang on. Certainly recently, Sunderland and Sheffield United. Matteo Joseph, a little shout out, who obviously is, we've been critical of him. I've been disappointed in Joseph this season, I've got to say. He's clearly, second fiddle to Peru. We know that. But I thought today it looked really good when he came on. That bursting run through, fantastic. The drive, the ambition of it, and then he's really unlucky not to actually score. Hits the bar, and he looked busy. He looked energized. He looked motivated, which is fantastic for us. That's what we want. We want Matteo Joseph that way out, because that's a great solution off the bench. That's someone we can introduce who can really help us. Well, it was good to see, wasn't it, Jason, that he was coming on and having that kind of impact.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously the sub that he made against Sheffield United. It made a lot of sense. Not that Brendan was terrible, but he didn't have a great game, and Pirro was having a good game. Like I said, I thought the first half, I thought it was excellent. So I think, it made a lot of sense. And it was really nice to see Joseph to have the confidence to kind of be like, I'm taking ownership of this ball, brought it off the left, and drove down that outside. And it was unfortunate he didn't score. I mean, the only way you beat the keeper at that kind of angle is to put it into the roof of the net. And he tried that on his weak foot. But when he was carrying the ball, you believed he was going to beat the defender. Whereas I think over recent weeks and months, you haven't thought that. He's always been a bit bumbly and like struggled to kind of get his feet and his head working at the same time. And it was really, really good to see. And he didn't have much to... Apart from that, he had one moment at the near post where Bartley blocked the shot, ended up being offside for Dan James, but he was still making them runs in towards the near post. That's all you can ask for. That's what you need to see. So I think it's really, I know we're kind of skipping off Joseph by me saying this, but I think it's really interesting that, again, he turns to the bench and he brings on Willie Nonto over bringing on Ramazani. Ramazani's now not seen the pitch for 2 games. So topic in itself. I don't really know what to say about it, because I don't know the reason.
I was just going to say, I was going to ask you what you thought of that, because like you say, Nonto, he was the one who kind of felt a bit sidelined a few weeks ago. He wasn't getting minutes on the pitch, etc. And then it's kind of flipped, and now Ramazan is out there. I mean, how much did he cost? Was it 11, 12 million or something? To keep that on the bench in the Championship. It's interesting. It's kind of, you do kind of wonder, because, if it kind of carries that trend on to the end of the season, it's going to have been a bit of a indifferent season for him, really. He's not really had a run of games apart from at the start, has he? But I mean, the other two have just been too strong, though. I think unquestionably the right wingers are playing, but it's just interesting, when big fee and him not seeing any minutes. But
I think when he got the injury, he was our first choice winger at the time. He was flying. And Solomon would have had an hard time getting back in. I think he still would have done, because I think Solomon's quality is just so much higher right now than the other three. And Dan James, Dan James is arguably the player of the season, mate.
Yeah.
Across the league, he's been brilliant. So, for Ramazani, he's got to do what he's got to do to get back in. Same as Nonto. Nonto's kind of proven that he can do that, and he's starting to affect games more when he comes onto the pitch, which is all you can ask for a substitute. Just like Joe Perreault did before him, in terms of that battle with Mateo Joseph, he took his opportunities to earn the position back. That's what you need to do when you're confined to the bench. So.
Yeah, exactly. Simon here, thanks for coming. You're worried about the points total record when we just drew at home to West Brom. We'll go, but that was, I don't think we're worried about it. It was just.
I think you're misunderstanding the point. What I'm saying is I am so confident that this is already done. That's not being arrogant. We are like, I think 1 to 25 now to go up to be promoted.
Yeah.
We've now got what? 12 games left or 11 games left?
11 games left now.
11 games left. We're unbeaten in 17 games. That's our hardest game between now and the end of the season. I'm not worried about missing out on the top two. So for me, I'm gutted from a sense of that I'd really like to see us challenge to win that point total. I want to see my team break records. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking, that during the first half.
Just on that point, sorry. Why are we talking about we just drew at home in big loud, caps to West Brom as if West Brom are like a nothing club? West Brom are one of the better teams in this division. They're fifth for a reason. You know what I mean? I love Tony Mowbray as a manager. I think he's a top championship manager. So what are you on about, Simon?
I think today, if anything proves it today, that this is how hard Leeds have worked over the season. I mean, the most sprints in the league. I know everyone throws the kind of talent thing at us, you're the most talented. You got the most talented squad. I think we're actually the most hardworking squad as well. And you can see even just today, if a couple of percent, you made a great point saying the drop from 100% to 95% is massive because look what it can do. And that's exactly what it is. So it shows you how on the ball we've been all season. It's tremendous, absolutely tremendous. So,
great.
Teams and we're not playing a League Two team today. We're not playing Halifax Town or something. It's a very, very strong team, West Brom, in this league.
I think you look at the best teams throughout the Premier League and the Championship over recent years. That what you've just said there applies to all of them. Man City is an example of dominated the Premier League for years, and they have been one of the most hardworking teams in the division, if not the most hardworking. When Liverpool broke the kind of duct, exactly the same under Klopp, the most hardworking team in the division. The talent is all well and good, but without the work ethic and the drive to kind of back that up, it means nothing. Your wingers, as in Manor Solomon and Dan James as an example, absolutely bust a gut every single time the opposition run the other way up the pitch. That's not by fluke. That's because they're all fully committed to what Daniel Farke's trying to do, and the aim of winning the division and getting promoted. So I couldn't agree with you more, mate. 100% agree with you.
We're starting to get some comments through. We'll just go through Tony Mowbray's first because I agree with Jess. I love Tony Mowbray. I think his teams play great football and they're always on the level. He's come into it today. He said Leeds will finish in the top two. Having watched our 4 or 5 games of theirs, they play in the same way every time. And if you don't find ways to stop them, their build-up is very good. Talent of Solomon and James, red hot season. Perreault showed his talent. Not many fullbacks play like theirs do. Postecoglou pushes his fullbacks that high and narrow too. And we didn't want to come here and sit everyone behind the ball thinking we can keep Leeds United out for 90 minutes. We wanted to have a go. We grew into the game, had to believe we could make them run. We had to throw punches and attack and get in behind. I mean, that Johnston is such a silky player, isn't he? I mean, he's just his feet are just superb, isn't it? Like you said, Mowat and Malumbu, it's just, they're a very good team.
They've got some good players within that whole side.
Do you think they'll do it? Do you think they'll kind of get to?
I think they'll finish in the top 6.
Yeah,
I don't know whether they'll win the playoffs, but I think they'll finish in the top 6. Daniel Furlong's a quality player. Mikey Johnson, I think, is one of outside of the top teams. I'm looking at Sheffield United, Burnley, and Leeds with that. I think he's probably in the conversation to be the best of the rest. Mikey Johnson, I think, is class. Like I say, Mowatt and Malumbu, you know what you're getting. They're not beautiful on the eye, but they're great players at this level. Yeah. Swift is one of the best number 10s in this division. He's getting on a little bit now, but he's been...
Could have had a goal as well, couldn't he, that early?
Yeah. He's been a top player at this division for years, you know, and like I said, Kyle Bartley, the top centre-back. I wouldn't be upset if we had Kyle Bartley still in the squad now. Like, he's a top centre-back. So, like, people need to get a grip, truthfully. They really, really need to get a grip.
Yeah. Kevin, welcome along, mate. There's a complacency aside with our fan base. West Brom, not a walkover. It's a good point. Farker, comment from him. So he's saying... let's have a look. Not frustration, have to live with a draw sometimes. We're used to winning home games. Disappointed not to win, but sometimes you live with it. We started excellent. Nervous after so much emotion and big games. If we would be on it, we were from the start. And interesting here, JC says, allowed ourselves to enjoy it too much. Went too many times for complicated passes. Went into duels with 98% rather than 100. Equalised with great header, but could see it coming. We did not fight like in the games before. Lacked concentration in the passes. Against a good side, you have to score from those moments Joseph and James had. In the end, important, we gained a point. When you have games like this so often, which you can lose, it could be a valuable draw, not our best overall. And again, I think...
Like you've listened to us.
Yeah. Are you tuning in? Is that one of the watchers here, Daniel Farker? But I think he's absolutely spot on. I mean, his full-time analysis, most times I think he gets it absolutely spot on. And you know what he's saying about going into tackles 98% rather than 100%. It's absolutely bang on. Do you think not that we needed a wake-up call, but is that that message is going to be drilled home by Farker, isn't it? That look, guys, you've got to be. It's 100%. It's 100%, or we won't get results potentially.
I saw somebody say that online, and we've seen this a couple of times this season where we've been gearing up ahead of steam and a run of wins, and then we've dropped points, either a loss or a draw, and we've come back even better. I do think there's something in that, because you cannot stop in the Championship. It is relentless, and if you want to win the league, and get promoted, you have to maintain that desire and that determination to go on and win the next game. People step up against us anyway. We are everybody's cup final in this division. It's just a fact. And when it's getting to the business end of the season, pretty much every game that we are going to have now between now and the end of the season is going to mean something to someone, whether it's be staying up in the division or going towards a playoff. Like, we are going to be competing against teams that are going to want to win these games. Yeah. We saw it last year when we went to QPR. Everything we needed that in inverted commas way more than they did, but they were fighting for their lives towards the bottom. They still had to confirm staying up as well. So it's massive, mate. It's absolutely massive. I don't think there'll be any sort of drop off in this team. No. I really, really don't. But if you did, he's right. 2%. We're saying it's 5%. He's saying it's 2%. Even that 2% can equal out two teams that are playing at the same level. So I just want to make a point while it's on my mind. Yeah. Have you seen that Burnley have lost 3-0 away at Preston today in the FA Cup?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
no.
So they played a first team today. Burnley, obviously, it's a massive derby for them. They've not conceded a goal in 12 games or whatever it is. It's a long time anyway.
They've lost a defender, aren't they?
They've lost Bashir Humphreys, Bashir Humphreys is injured for the rest of the season. But to go away at Preston and lose 3-0, who were a bang average side, by the way, that could have a massive impact on their momentum, form, and their season, especially because they played a full strength side. So I think that's an interesting kind of little plot twist. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, this is it. I mean, when you've got that points gap as well, Jason, it's just they've got to catch us, hasn't they? That pressure ramps up for them. Absolutely. Up next, then it's a long trip, kind of next weekend. It's Portsmouth away at 12 o'clock. I mean, traveling support down to there. I mean, God, it's one of those, isn't it? Just you're scratching your head at the scheduling of these type of games. But I mean, Portsmouth, they're currently sat down in 17th at the moment, and then we follow it up with a midweek match against Millwall after that, who were mid-table as well. So it'll be interesting, Jason, how we kind of approach those games, because I think Farker's right as well. It's kind of emotional energy as well, isn't it? Against Sheffield United and Sunderland, those games, how tense and tight they were. Obviously we'll come through and beat them, but it's still draining, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, again, it's all back down to the championship being just relentless. And it's funny how different them games against them kind of teams can play out in comparison to just a run-of-the-mill championship game. You have big game and big game pressure, and the same pressure applies to both teams, doesn't it? So you play them games a little bit differently too. Maybe not today, but a game against Millwall at home, as an example, that's got a real banana skin feel to that one. I think that these two games that we've actually got coming are our two most difficult between now and the end of the season. And we'll probably keep on saying that because we're getting closer towards the end of the season. But I think Millwall at home is always a bit of a tricky one for Leeds because of who Millwall are and our kind of relationship with Millwall over the years. And Portsmouth away is never an easy place to go. Fratton Park's just one of them places. They're still fighting for the lives to stay up. They've done extremely well this season, Portsmouth, because the start of the season, it looked like they were going to get cut adrift, and they've actually put it right in their own hands. So, I think these two are extremely tough games. Again, I expect us to go and win them both. We're the best team in the division for a reason, and I'm sure that we'll probably pick up a minimum of 4 points. But at some point or another, we're going to drop points. I'm genuinely not concerned or worried. Like, if a turn of form appears, then we'll discuss it then. But there's nothing on the face of it that gives you anything to be worried about. We are so far adrift, really, from the rest of this division as a normal practice that we're just going to win too many games for it to be a problem. I saw somebody mention earlier, I think it was Lee, 5 wins pretty much does it. Like, this team are going to get 5 wins out of the next 11. That's true. And we'll probably get more. We're probably going to win 7. You know what I mean? So, I'm not concerned.
No. I've seen that Sheffield United are winning against QPR away 1-0, so we'll see how that one goes on there. Do you think he'll kind of mix up anything kind of in terms of starting players or anything? I mean, Nonto, Ramazani, do you think there's any chance those guys may be able to squeeze themselves in, if only purely for resting players and that? Do you think it's difficult, isn't it? It's that fine line between, you've got 2 players who are absolutely on it, but you don't want to risk, especially Solomon, with his injury record. I mean, is it a bit much asking him, Wednesday, Saturday? I mean, do you think there's potentially a chance that Farker may roll the dice a little bit with that selection?
I don't, if I'm honest, no. I think this side that we've got right now, with the rotation of Gruev and Rothwell game dependent, is probably what we'll see between now and the end of the season. I would imagine that Gruev will come back in for Portsmouth away, and I think he should. It gives us that kind of structure in that area of the pitch where we then plug in as gaps, basically. It allows Firpo to do what Firpo does. The first time that West Brom broke today was a big gaping hole where Firpo should have been. I don't know if you remember the moment. It was about, I don't know, I think it was after, no, it was the Swift chance. It was the Swift chance. The ball was played into that area of the pitch. I was like, where's Firpo? And Firpo was just kind of jogging over the halfway line, doing what Firpo does. But Gruev would have been there if Gruev had been playing. But Rothwell wasn't, because Rothwell is involved in the game in the attacking phase far more. And he's not as defensively aware of what's going on. So, people kind of scoff at Gruev. And I know he's a bit awkward and stuff, but he's off the ball understanding is so important, especially for the way that we play. So, I would imagine that change will keep on happening. But no, mate, I don't think so. Like, we don't play until next weekend again. Solomon now gets another week's rest. Yeah. You can't not play Manor Solomon. He's the best. He's the best. For me, he's technically the best player in the league.
Yeah.
You can't have him on the bench.
No.
Now, whether you then maybe drop Solomon out for Ramazani or Nonto for the midweek game at home a few days later, I'm all right with that, because it gives them players that are coming in the opportunity to really stake a claim. That's how you drive your squad on. I'm all right with that. And then if that player scores and takes his opportunity and Solomon then has to ride bench for a bit, fine. Same for the other side. But I won't be in a rush for it, because this I wouldn't have changed Ampadu. I wouldn't have done. Ampadu would have been still playing at centre-back and Pascal would have been on the bench. Yeah. There's a lot around consistency of a team that's winning. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder, I mean, as well, that, you know, the Millwall game we had in the FA Cup, it was a big opportunity for a lot of guys, and they didn't really take it, did they, to be completely honest? Just having a look, totally off point, but have you seen the Mateta getting kicked in the head in the FA Cup?
I mentioned it in the group before we went live. I mean, I really hope he's all right. It's one of the worst, I'm not going to say tackles. It's probably the most reckless thing I've ever seen on a football pitch. For those of you that haven't seen it, he basically takes a full flying kick to the chin. It's not even just to the head. He takes it to the chin, which snaps his neck up, and he left on a stretcher with a neck brace in place. Keeper got sent off for Millwall. I mean, it's not looking too good. It was a real bad one, And
he's been superb as well, hasn't he, Mateta?
Yeah, he's been good, hasn't he?
Really good. That is absolute horror story, is that? Yeah. Good stuff. Well, Jason, I didn't want to kind of make a big deal or feed into, we've dropped points, it's a massive problem, and to be honest, I think it's a solid point for us. But do you have anything else you want to add or chat about before we go today, Jason?
No, I think again, like I'm over it already. Like,
yeah, me too.
It's a solid point. Like it's a solid point in a run of 17 games unbeaten. I've not seen my team lose since the 30th of November, and we've won nearly all of them. Like there's just no deal to be had. Like in some games of football, you're not going to win. And we still created some good chances today. We weren't at his best, and we still got a solid point. West Brom had to pretty much be at their best to compete to that. Like there was some half moments. If they, both of them 2 chances, especially the Joseph one, if it's a few inches lower, we're talking about a 2-1 win. So yeah, I'm not flustered at all. I feel like I have to have a slight mention for Coventry. Who just seem to be just fucking under Lampard, man. I didn't think that they would go that way, but yeah, Coventry are a bit of a side to be reckoned with. And when you talk about potential playoff winners, you often look at the teams that come into the playoffs on the back of a run of form, and they are really firing. Just keep on winning games. So, and again, it goes back to that game at the Rico, and we blew them away. We could have won that game 7-0. And they were in the midst of a run at that point. Lampard had already started and was carrying in that form. So, mate, like, come on, let's just enjoy it. Let's just enjoy it every week. Like, if we lose 2 in a row, let's then discuss then, and we'll have a wobble on. But
then we'll do the clickbait. Yeah,
then we'll clickbait up.
Yeah. Just a very big quickly before we go do though. 24 fouls today, not a single yellow card.
I mean, I made the point to you, didn't I, mate? I think it were about 55 minutes when I said, like, this ref needs to get his card out. It were the challenge on Bogle that really did my head in. Because Bogle were away. It was cynical. Like, you can't just pick and choose when you decide that you need to enforce the rules.
No.
Like, I understand a referee trying to give a little bit of length to let the game flow. And I did think he made some good calls based on that thought process. There were some moments where, I think Callum Grant went down after about 80 minutes, quite late on, and he clearly went down easily and he didn't give a foul. I think that's great refereeing. But, it's not up to you to decide to not enforce the rule of a cynical challenge receiving a yellow card. I do think that they worked both ways. There were a couple that could have been the other way as well. I think Dan James got away with one. He should have probably been booked in the first half as well. But more often than not, it played into West Brom's favour than ours. But yeah, odd referee, but by no way the worst. Nowhere near the worst.
It's it's so inconsistent though, isn't it? It's just all over shopping it. It is absolutely bizarre, really bizarre. Good stuff. Okay, well, we'll leave it there. Thank you for everyone watching along live. If you're watching this again later, please do leave your comments. Let us know what you thought about what we discussed and your thoughts on the game. Get a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. We'll be back next week to review Leeds versus Portsmouth. I've been Stephen Brown. Joining me as ever has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And we will see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.